You know, when a company's value explodes, that's usually the big headline, right? But today, we're going to look past that headline. We're digging into the story behind the numbers. It's all about this, well, almost secret project out in the Arizona desert that honestly tells us way more about a huge shift in global tech and national security. So yeah, let's get into it.
So what's that headline number? A cool $5 trillion. Yeah, you heard that right. NVIDIA just shot past a market cap that puts it in this super elite club of companies. I mean, it's just a mind-boggling number.
But here's the thing. As insane as that number is, it's almost a distraction. It's hiding a way more important story. One that didn't happen on Wall Street at all.
Nope, the real story, the one that really matters, went down in the Arizona desert. And get this, in just 9 months, a team up that included NVIDIA pulled off something that most of the experts, they said it was flat out impossible. And this right here, has everything to do with the future of the global tech race.
All right, so let's dig into what actually happened out there in Arizona. Because this was not just another construction project. Think of it more like a perfect storm, a collision of national policy, massive corporate strategy, and the most advanced tech on the planet.
And the stakes here? They just couldn't be higher. This wasn't some simple business decision. No, this was a huge strategic play, one that's going to have ripple effects for generations, changing where and how the world's most important technology gets made.
So what did they do? What was this big secret project? Well, they built one of the most complex, most advanced factories on the entire planet. And they did it at a speed that is, honestly, it's hard to even believe. Let's really try to put this into perspective because it's wild. Okay, check this out. Normally, building one of these advanced chip factories, they call them fabs, it's a huge, painstaking job. We're talking 3, 4, even 5 years. But this project, a team-up between NVIDIA and the Taiwanese giant TSMC, they went from let's do this to pumping out the world's most advanced AI chips in just 9 months. It's absolutely insane.
And just so we're all on the same page here, when I say fab, I don't mean your average factory. Fab is short for fabrication plant, and these things are some of the most complex, most ridiculously clean places humans have ever built. Seriously, we're talking about an environment where a single speck of dust can completely destroy millions of dollars worth of chips. It's that precise.
I mean, think about what it takes to build one. You need precision down to the nanometer, you need clean rooms that are thousands of times cleaner than a hospital operating room, you need a power grid big enough for a small city. It is, and this is a quote, an extraordinary industrial mobilization. To pull that off in 9 months, it's practically unheard of.
So that leads to the big question, right? Why? Why the crazy rush? The answer gets to the heart of a huge, fundamental shift in American strategy, one that basically flips decades of policy on its head.
See, for decades, the US has been the brain behind the world's best chips, right? We designed them here, but the actual manufacturing, we outsourced almost all of it, mostly to Taiwan and South Korea. And sure, that was cheap, it was efficient, but it also created this giant national security vulnerability just waiting to be exposed.
And this is what lit the fire. According to NVIDIA's own CEO, Jensen Huang, this whole thing was kicked off by direct pressure from the White House. The government basically said, this is a national security emergency. We need these chips made here now. They didn't want a 5-year plan, they wanted it done yesterday.
And that right there is the core policy shift. The old way of thinking was simple, make it as cheap as possible. That meant outsourcing. The new model, it completely flips the script. Now it's all about optimizing for security, for resilience, even if that means it costs more in the short term. I mean, Wang himself admits that making these things in the US is considerably more expensive at first, but he sees it as an investment they just have to make. Now, this whole push to bring manufacturing back home, it isn't happening in a vacuum. You have to understand the backdrop here. And that backdrop is an incredibly intense geopolitical competition, specifically with China.
So in an effort to slow down China's military AI programs, the US put these really strict export controls in place. Basically, NVIDIA couldn't sell its best, most powerful chips to China anymore. And the effect? It was immediate and it was brutal. NVIDIA's share of that massive market went from 95% down to basically zero. Just gone.
And this kicks off a really tough policy debate. There are no easy answers here. On one hand, you have people saying, look, these restrictions are just hurting our own company's bottom line and forcing China to build up its own chip industry even faster. But on the other hand, people are arguing, no, this is vital. This buys us the time we desperately need to bring our own manufacturing back online and keep our tech lead over a major rival. And you know what? Both sides have a pretty good point.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. What does all of this mean for the big picture? Because this project in Arizona, it's not just some random one-off thing. It's a huge flashing signpost. It's pointing to a massive global shift that is happening as we speak. For what, the last 30 years or so? The playbook was simple. Globalization. You design the cool stuff in the West, and you build it cheaper in the East. But now, countries are waking up and realizing, whoa, this created some really dangerous vulnerabilities. So the pendulum is starting to swing back. The new model is all about reshoring, bringing those critical industries back home for the sake of security and resilience in what's becoming a much more competitive world.
And that's why this 9-month sprint is such a big deal. It's the proof of concept. It's the thing you can point to and say, see, it can be done. It shows that when you have enough political willpower and everyone in the industry is pulling in the same direction, you can bring this critical manufacturing back, and you can do it way, way faster than anyone thought was even possible.
But we also have to be realistic here. This factory is a massive step, for sure, but it doesn't mean America is suddenly totally independent. Let's not forget, this whole project leans heavily on that partnership with TSMC, a company with decades of specialized knowledge that you just can't replicate overnight. Real independence? That means rebuilding entire supply chains, developing all that know-how from the ground up. And that, my friends, is a marathon that takes decades, not a 9-month sprint.
So, as we wrap this up, let's bring it back to the beginning. That $5 trillion valuation, super impressive, but it's a symptom, not the cause. The real story here, the one you should remember, is about a nation waking up, seeing its own weaknesses, and then taking these huge, almost unbelievable steps to rebuild its industrial strength and lock down its future in technology.
And that leaves us with one final, really critical question. This 9-month project was an incredible feat. It showed what's possible when everyone is focused and motivated. But rebuilding an entire industrial ecosystem, that's not a 9-month job. That takes decades of constant effort, spanning different presidents, different Congresses. So the real question is, can America turn this amazing sprint into a long-distance marathon? Because honestly, the answer to that question is probably going to decide who leads the world for the rest of this century.